Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Am's Untitled Podcast. I'm Am. Hi, if you've never met me before, it's so nice to meet you. I recently started this podcast. I think we're coming up to 2.5 months now, and yeah, it was just a podcast originally that was just dedicated to my love for books, TV shows, that sort of thing. But I finally made a decision now. If you haven't heard um, episode 21, I think it was at the beginning of episode 21 where I was talking about this, but I've basically come to the decision that I'm going to dedicate this podcast entirely to Percy Jackson because I love it so much. There is so much more I want to talk about, and I feel like it doesn't really make sense for me to have a podcast that is dedicated to TV shows, movies, and books. Well, other types apart from Percy Jackson. When most of my episodes, every single episode so far that's gone up, apart from my introduction, has been dedicated to Percy Jackson. So I figured I'll make the big change and turn it into a Percy Jackson podcast. Now, if anybody follows me on Instagram, you'll be able to see that I've changed my bio and everything as well. So yeah, it's all Percy Jackson themed now. So follow me on Instagram. It's at Aamsuntitledpodcast. I'm not changing my handle, but it is entirely a Percy Jackson podcast now. So I'm so sorry if a lot of people are disappointed with that. I did decide that I will post maybe on my Instagram page like different books that I've been reading, maybe do mini reviews in the comments bit, but I'm not sure about that just yet. Yeah, so like I said, this is completely dedicated to Percy Jackson now, and I am so happy with it. I've been thinking about this decision for 2 weeks, and I've finally come to a conclusion yesterday that this is what I wanted to do. So yeah, an entire Percy Jackson podcast, something I'm passionate about. Why not make it something I'm passionate about? So yeah, sorry, that was like a whole rant. Yeah. So on Instagram, I posted that episodes 20 and 21 went up yesterday, which were the last Olympian book, part one and part two. There is 5 parts to this, and normally I post them all together, but I've been having a really rough few weeks with family stuff and just things feel a little bit uncertain at the minute. And I know life is uncertain in general, but particularly this week, has been pretty rough. So I'm having to maybe take a little bit more time to put these episodes up because I'm super busy when I'm not recording. So um sorry, I just thought that was really bad, for a second there. Oh, never mind. Yeah, like I said, things in the family have been really rocky. So I've been like kind of distracted, and I didn't want to, because I've been so good at uploading, like I didn't want to give myself a break and then pull myself out of that routine, because obviously that's not fair to you guys, and I haven't spoken about this, so you guys are not going to know what's going on. And I didn't really want to post it on Instagram. I wanted you guys to hear it from me personally. So yeah, I'm so sorry, like, if it's taken a bit longer for episodes to go up. I have been super busy, but I'm all right now. I think things are still a little bit on the edge, but I suppose that's life, and I can't stop just because my mind is preoccupied. I have to just get on with it, and I think I'm a decent multitasker. So yeah, like I said, please just bear with me. The whole review will go up, and I'll let you guys know on Instagram once all the episodes are available to stream. But part one and part two have gone up, so on Spotify and on my YouTube channel. So if you guys want to listen to that first before you listen to this, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. But in today's episode, we're going to be doing part three, which is chapters 12 to 16, I believe. Yeah. And there's a lot that goes down in these chapters. So you guys are really just going to have to stay with me. I think this might be one of the longer episodes because there's a lot that happens in these chapters. But all of it was important. And I wanted to, um, the next 2 episodes out of this, so part 4 and part 5, there's other stuff I'm going to be talking about in those as well, but I'll talk more about that when the time comes. Anyway, let's get on with it. I've been rambling for nearly 5 minutes and I haven't even started reviewing the chapter, so let's do it. So, chapter 12 is Rachel Makes a Bad Deal. So, it opens up with Percy grabbing Will. So, Will is one of the healers from. Is he from the Apollo camp? I think. Something like that. You should know this, guys. I really should know this. I'm supposed to be like Percy Jackson enthusiast. I'm supposed to know these things. I think he is from the Apollo cabin. and he takes him to the Plaza Hotel because obviously Annabeth is injured and Will is a healer. And then Percy finds out that the dagger used on Annabeth actually had poison on it, and that's why she's not recovering, basically. And Will takes some time to sit there and heal Annabeth. Selena is also feeling really guilty, and she says that if there's anything I can do, the best thing I can do for you guys right now is to try and convince Clarisse to help, because obviously Clarisse is in a pissy mood at the minute over the chariot. So she says, if anybody can convince her, because Selena and Clarisse are best friends, she says if anybody convince her, I can probably do it. So Percy says to her, yeah, sure, like take a Pegasus, and if you can, bring her here. And then Percy asks her Annabeth why she took the knife for him. And she says, you know that you would have done the same thing for me. Exactly. Oh, guys. They're just so cute. Like, how can anybody not ship them? Like, honestly, they're just adorable. And you know what makes me laugh is she protected him without knowing where his Achilles spot was. Like, she just had this instinct that he was in danger and she just felt the need to protect him. My God, those mad girlfriend instincts. My God. You can tell that they're soulmates. Guys. How can we possibly ship Percy with anybody else? Like they're just my Roman Empire. Like I just love them so much. And I can't wait to see where the show takes them. Yeah. Oh, they're cute. And Percy shows her where his actual Achilles spot is. And I pulled the quote straight out of the book, and it is I moved her fingers to the one spot that grounded me to mortal life. 1,000 volts of electricity seemed to arc through my body. Swear, guys, these two are going to be the death of me. Like, you're not really supposed to reveal where your Achilles spot is, because it puts you in danger. One knock at the Achilles spot and you're dead. But I think it just shows how much Percy trusts her. Oh, guys. Just I can't. They're too cute. They're just too cute. And Annabeth tells Percy why Hermes is so annoyed with her. And it's because Luke actually came to see her when she was living with her dad. And he had revealed to her that Kronos is only going to use him to get to where he needs to be before he kills Luke, basically. And he asked her to run away with him. And obviously, Annabeth, she didn't trust him at all, and she said no. So basically, she's carrying around this big guilt that she's to blame for the start of the war, which is not true. She thinks that if she had gone with Luke, things might have been better. Although I don't think that is necessarily how it works. It's just, I think I would feel the same as her, actually. I think I would feel pretty bad as well. And it's just like, I'm glad that Rick is putting these moments in. These flashbacks are really important. And it kind of explains why Annabeth can't shake her feelings for him. Like, it makes sense. As much as I hate to admit it, like, it does make sense. And Annabeth tells Percy, like, you need to talk to Grover. And Grover has managed to convince as much of the Wild as he could to help them fight this war. And they find out that Typhon will arrive in 2 days. So one of the big bads that they're going to have to face, as well as Kronos, basically. And Percy's like still thinking about this spy that's telling Kronos these plans. Like why Kronos is always um steps ahead of them is because whoever this spy is knows exactly what's going on and is keeping him well informed, basically. Now, you guys are going to ask me who did I think the spy was? And I knew it was this person. I don't know why. I just had a feeling, like, when I was reading it, that it would be this person. And I was right. And I'm not going to reveal it yet because it comes later on in the chapters. But I knew who the spy was. Now, I heard a lot of people, like, I was talking to this with my friends, like, when we were first initially reading it. And they said to me, I had one friend who thought it was Juniper. I had another friend who thought it was what's his name? Damn it. I've forgotten what his name is. That's gonna irritate me now. Oh, I can't remember, but yeah, somebody said somebody else. And then one of my friends said Annabeth. Now I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, do not shade Annabeth like that. I was like, she wouldn't betray Percy. Like, I know her from the books. Like, she would not hurt his feelings like that. And they were like, yeah, but it would make so much sense, like why she feels so sorry for Luke and why she's always defending him. I was like, nah, nah, nah. It ain't Annabeth. I was like, don't come at her like that. It's not her. And I remember we got into this big debate about who the spy was. Now, I said who I thought the spy was, and everyone's like, no, too much on this. Oh, sorry, I've just revealed it's a girl. Oh well, whatever. And then one of my friends actually thought it was Clarisse, and I was like, huh, okay, that could make sense because obviously she doesn't really like Percy much. But then after everything that happened with Chris, it just didn't make sense for her to be the spy. But yeah, I had loads of people that were like, we had a full debate about who the spy was. And guess who was right? Me. Don't mean to blow my own trumpet, but I clocked. And I was like, yeah, it's definitely her. Anyway, let's move on. That was just my little commentary on spy thing. And then, Thalia says to Percy, you need to rest because obviously the war's coming. And when you use your demigod powers, especially when you've got the Achilles curse, it really does drain the life out of you. So she says, go up and rest. And as Percy falls asleep, he has a dream about Nico summoning his mother's ghost, even though Bianca told him not to. And in that dream, Percy sees Zeus and Hades. Zeus gives the ultimatum to Hades to hand over his children because they could be these children from this prophecy. So Zeus needs to get rid of them to stop any threat coming to Olympus, basically. And Hades doesn't want to give them up to Zeus because he knows that Zeus will kill them. So he offers so his Maria, who is Nico and Bianca's mortal mother, he tells her that, look, I'll hide them in the underworld to protect them. And Maria says no, like, why should my children be hidden away, you know what I mean? And I guess obviously that makes sense, like in her point of view, like it does make sense. And then it is revealed that Maria actually died in a fire, and Hades finds out from Alecto that it was Zeus that caused that fire, basically. And he tells Alecto to take Nico and Bianca to the Lotus Casino. Actually, no, it wasn't Alecto that tells Hades. It was the Oracle, the young Oracle, before she's the spirited ghost thing that she is now. And Hades curses her soul for telling her this, which is why she is the way that she is now, like this skeleton ghost with no life, basically. She's been cursed by Hades. And then Percy has another dream about Rachel as she's on vacation, and she knows Percy's in danger, basically, and she tells her dad, like, I have to go back to New York right now. And she says, I'll make you a deal, like, I will go to finishing school if you take me back to New York right now to help Percy. And his her dad agrees, basically, and they get in the private jet on the way back to New York. And when Percy wakes up, a Titan has come to meet him with a message, and that's where the chapter ends. So chapter 13 is A Titan Brings Me a Present. So it is revealed that the giants have also sided with Kronos' army, so they're not really doing too well on numbers there. A demigod appears behind the Titan, and it's Ethan Nakamura. And the Titan introduces himself as Prometheus. So Prometheus tells Percy that the spy is keeping them well informed. So basically, he's like trying to push Percy's buttons, basically. And Prometheus touches Percy's forehead, and whilst doing that, he sees a vision of Luke and his mother. In the scene is also Hermes, Thalia, and Annabeth. So it opens up with Luke arguing and blaming Hermes for his mother's situation. And there's a big reveal that Hermes knew about Luke's fate. Like, he knew that this was all going to happen to Luke. And, Percy, not Percy, God's sake, Luke drags Thalia and Annabeth out. So this was a flashback when they were kids, before they were on their way to Camp Half-Blood, basically. And there's this big idea that Prometheus is trying to brainwash Percy, but thankfully Percy doesn't listen. He still trusts the people that he's working with. Prometheus gives Percy a vase, which is actually, is it a vase or a vase? Depending on what part of the world you're from, I guess. I call it a vase, but maybe it's a vase. I don't know. And it's actually Pandora's box. And Prometheus tells Percy, if you lose hope and you want to surrender, just open it and we'll know that you're surrendering. And Prometheus, the giant, and Ethan leave the scene, and that's where the chapter ends. Chapter 14 is Pig's Fly. So Percy tells Thalia about what he saw in his dreams, and Thalia reveals to Percy that she's worried about Annabeth facing Luke. I think out of the three of them, like, Thalia is able to control her emotions, but she worries that if Annabeth sees Luke in a vulnerable light, she'll, like, almost try to protect him, which is what she's worried about. Um, And I get that. Like, I know why Thalia's worried, and I would be too in this instance. But I also know Annabeth, like, as a character, and and I know deep down that if she had to choose between Luke and Percy, she would choose Percy. Like, I'm adamant that she would choose Percy. Yeah, so I thought that that was a really interesting line that Rick put in there. Rick is so clever. Like, honestly, I have to like give my praise to him for that because the way he writes things, sometimes he explicitly tells you what he means, and sometimes he implies what he means, which I love. I love that about his writing style. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. What else happens in the chapter? Percy gives the vase with that's actually Pandora's box to Thalia and says, lock it in the vault so nobody's tempted to open it, basically. And then he eventually falls asleep again and has a nightmare about Poseidon's palace. So if you didn't know what's going on, so Poseidon is also under attack under the sea. Oceanus, who is a Titan, is also trying to take over Poseidon's palace. And he sees it burning with Greek fire, and he sees Tyson going to battle as well. Then his dream sort of shifts to Auntie M, so Medusa's lair, when she was still alive, of course. And he sees Ethan and Kronos there. Kronos calls upon Ethan, you know, and he says, when you were trying to kill Percy, like, where were you aiming? So I think Kronos knows that Ethan knows like Percy's Achilles spot, but he doesn't reveal it. Now, you're probably thinking Ethan's a bad guy. Like, why wouldn't he reveal it? But like I said, in this book, like, you feel like there's obvious bad guys and good guys, but nobody is black and white. Like, I genuinely believe that. I don't believe anybody is pure bad or pure good. I think we all have, sorry, this is getting a bit deep, but I think that we make a choice every day whether we want to be good or whether we want to make a wrong decision. And that's what I love about these characters. Like, these characters that Rick's created, they're never black and white. There is always an explanation as to why somebody is the way that they are. And what I love, and I've said this before, like, Luke has the greatest character arc in these books, and we'll come to that as we get further and further in this review. But yeah, I truly believe nobody is plain good and nobody is plain bad. I feel like we make a choice every day, and I love that Rick puts that in his writing. It's amazing. Not a lot of writers can do what he does, so I'm very, very proud that he writes like this. And sorry, let's go back to the chapter. Uh, Ethan can see Kronos in pain, and Ethan knows that Luke is still fighting him. There is still good in Luke. He knows that Kronos is doing the wrong thing. He is trying to help to some extent, but he can't. He's not strong enough, you could say, at this point. And Kronos dismisses Ethan like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah. And that's where one of that dream ends. Then Percy has another dream where he sees Camp. So this was like quite early on when obviously Hermes, May, who's Luke's mother, and Chiron. Obviously May is a seer, so she can see through the mist, and she says that she wants to be the new Oracle, even though Hermes has told her, like, look, being the Oracle is dangerous. Like, there's nothing good that can come of it, but May doesn't listen. And, May basically begs Chiron, she's like, please let me go up to the attic and try. And all you could hear about the end of the dream is May screaming. So the Oracle has basically just denied her her to be it, basically. So when Percy eventually wakes up, he tells Annabeth about this dream that he's had, and Annabeth says to him, I need to go out and fight, like, as well. Like, bearing in mind she's still injured, and obviously Percy doesn't want her to go, but she ain't listening. And she's, in one sense, she's right as well. Like, they haven't got enough people, that they need as many people as they can get. And obviously Annabeth is one of the best warriors, so it's best for her to be out there as well. And Thalia interrupts them and she tells them that the army is on its way. The war starts and Hyperion, is that how you say it, appears? And as Percy's leaving to fight him, he creates this hurricane around him. It's so amazing, like the way it's described in the book. Like, I wish I could just sit and read the book out to you guys because it's awesome. But yeah, and Grover says, like, you don't even realize the kind of power that you have, and part of that power is obviously the Achilles curse, but it's his own demigod power. Because he's the forbidden child of the big three, he has these powers that nobody else has seen. And it's amazing. Like, you have to read the book, like, to understand the hype. Like, you really have to read it. And then Grover helps him to defeat Hyperion by trapping him in a maple tree. Oh, poor Grover. You know what? At the beginning, yeah, they painted this very picture of a vulnerable satyr who's just trying to do their job and get on to what they want to do. But Grover's actually really brave. Sorry, minor interruption there. What was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about Grover, yeah. So you know how, like, before he was like deemed as not being as brave, but actually he is one of the bravest satyrs ever. Like, he's in the middle of the war with Percy, with Annabeth. The trio is always there together. They're always fighting together, and I love that. I love. Sorry if you guys can hear through the window. It's so loud. This is like the downside of living on a main road. Like, you just hear all the hustle and bustle off the street. Anyway, sorry. Let's go back on to what's happening in the chapter. So after that happens, a sow appears. So a sow, I think, is a flying pig, from what I can remember. And Percy says, we have to kill it. And Percy's fighting it, and he manages to jump on its back. And he says to Blackjack to come and help him. And as Percy lets go, Blackjack just about manages to catch him. And as they are following this pig, that's Percy sees, the statue of Hermes. So if you didn't know, all the statues, well, most of them in New York are automatons. So they can be programmed to help defend the area, basically. And Percy tells the Hermes statue to help them, and all the lion statues that are there as well to help. And eventually, the pig is killed by Percy, and Percy and Blackjack have to fly back to the main battlefield, basically the main war zone. And that's when the chapter comes to an end. So, chapter 15 is Chiron throws a party. So this chapter opens up in the Midtown war zone. The Titan army is closing in on the Empire State Building, and Percy notices Annabeth trying to defeat a giant, and he basically goes to help her, and they eventually defeat it together. And as they are reaching the Empire State Building, they hear a horn in the distance, and the Titan army has just come to a stop, and like everybody's like, "What's going on?" Chiron arrives with the rest of the centaurs to help them win the war, basically. And, Annabeth tells Percy, we have to pull back. Otherwise, this isn't going to go well. And Chiron tells them that, the gods are tiring out from fighting Typhon. They've been fighting Typhon for God knows how long now. They've been fighting him for a long time. And Percy tells Annabeth about the visions that Hestia showed him. And he also tells her that Thalia is worried about her facing Luke. Now, that is a bit like weird that he said that out loud. Like, I didn't think he'd have the guts to tell Annabeth that. But I think Annabeth secretly knows that that's what everybody's worried about. Because I don't think she knows how she's going to react when she sees Luke. Like, in the book, like, she's always steps ahead of everybody else. Always the smartest person in the room. But I think when it comes to Luke, I don't think she knows herself how she's going to react. And I love that because no matter what, like, you can't be in control all the time. And as much as I hate to accept that fact and Annabeth hates to accept it, it's like the universe has a way of showing you that you're not in control. So it will put you in a situation or in front of somebody where feelings are involved and there's nothing you can do because you're not in control. And I think Annabeth really does struggle with that. And that's why I relate to her. Like, I see a lot of her in myself. And maybe that's why she's my favorite because I really do relate to her struggles sometimes. And yeah, with the whole Luke thing, like I remember reading the books for the first time and being like, I really hope she doesn't come face to face with him because I don't know how she's gonna react. Like this whole time I've been defending her, and I'm like, I don't know what she's gonna do when she faces Luke. But yeah, she does me proud. Let's just put it like that. And he also tells her that he's seen a vision of Luke fighting Kronos. So he's sort of, in a way, telling her that he sort of knows that Luke isn't all bad. Like there is a good part to him as well, as much as that might be difficult for him to admit. And there's a little Percabeth moment here. I pulled the quote, so I was just like, I couldn't resist. And it's, I don't want him to hurt you anymore. Aw. They're just so wholesome. Like, they're just so cute. Like, how could anyone not love them? It's really funny. And then as they're talking, Percy gets transported, and he sees Mr. D. and he tells them that they're in danger. Like, not just the gods and the mortals of this time, like the whole Western civilization is going to disappear if Kronos wins. So Percy has this big responsibility to save Olympus and basically stop humanity from being wiped out. um, and then Mr. D tells him that in a day, Kronos will burn his mortal body. So the body that he's currently preoccupying, which is Luke's, he'll burn that so he can unveil his true form as the Titan King. And at that point, that's it, game over. Like, no, they can't win then because he'll be all powerful and there's no way to stop him. So they have to stop him before he gets to that stage. And Mr. D also tells Percy, he makes Percy promise to keep his son alive. Now, Percy does the right thing this time. He doesn't promise, but he says that he'll do his best. Great. He learned from the whole Nico and Bianca situation. And he Mr. D also tells Percy that there are some other nasty surprises that are coming. And he is eventually transported back as if nothing happened. And as him and Annabeth are walking down the street, he sees Paul's car, and in there is Sally and Paul fast asleep. So obviously they've fallen under this spell, like the rest of the mortals, due to Morpheus, obviously God of Dream, putting the entire Manhattan to sleep. And it's revealed that Percy actually still has Pandora's jar on him, and that he's going to take it to Olympus. Um, Now I don't know how good of an idea there actually is, but we'll go with it at this point. And then when they look up, they hear like this noise, and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And they see a helicopter in the sky with I think, is it Dare written on it? Dare Enterprises or something? I should have written it down. But it's basically the private helicopter of Rachel's family. And they realise that everybody in there has fallen asleep because obviously they've come in and everyone's asleep apart from Rachel. Now, that is a big, big, big hint that something is slightly different about her. Like I said, Rick is very clever at dropping subtle hints. And then sometimes he just shoves a hint right in your face, which I, again, is what I love about his writing. I think he's great at what he does. And then Annabeth tells Percy that, look, we're gonna have to go and save his friend. She doesn't say our friend. She sort of like pushes it on him like it's your friend that we have to save. And that's where the chapter comes to an end. So chapter 16 and the last chapter we're going to be talking about for this review is chapter 16, which is we get help from a thief. So it opens up with Percy flying the Pegasus to the helicopter so that they can get Rachel out basically before they crash land. And in the helicopter, they can hear Rachel screaming her head off. And Gideon, who's a Pegasus, accidentally slams into the helicopter. And that leaves Annabeth dangling off the edge of the helicopter, and Rachel tries and pulls her up. And eventually Annabeth takes control of the helicopter and she lands it. Oh god, she's such a badass. I love her. Like, I love her. She's so cool. And she was really like humble about this sort of stuff as well. And then as they get out of the helicopter, Annabeth is pissed off about Rachel showing up. Now, bearing in mind, things between Percy and Annabeth have been a bit rocky since Rachel appeared in his life, but I think so far they've been good. And now she thinks that Percy called Rachel to come and help, and she just storms off like she's pissed off. Now, I understand it from her perspective as well, but then I also feel really sorry for Percy because it's like it's not his fault. Like, he didn't call Rachel here; he didn't want her to come, but she came anyway, which is thing in itself, I guess you could say. And then Percy knows that Rachel is here to give him a message, and she tells him that, look, I've been seeing things beyond the mist, like these visions of things that are gonna happen. Again, it's such a big, 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 big hint. Now, if you haven't worked it out at this point, you're just not picking up on the hints. I get it. Like, I get where this is going now, and that's not just because I read it 3 times, but I remember reading it for the first time, being like, yeah, I know. And Rachel tells him that you're not the hero in this story. Like, you're not the hero from the past. Way to knock a guy's confidence, eh? That's just like, I think that made me burst out laughing when I read it. And then as Percy and Rachel are talking, Chiron comes up to her and he meets her and she introduces herself. Chiron tells Percy that he needs to rest because obviously there's still more things coming, and then Chiron takes Rachel and leaves. As Percy's falling asleep, he has a dream about Nico trying to convince Hades to help win this war, because obviously Hades is the only god that isn't preoccupied at the minute. Obviously, Poseidon's fighting his war in the sea. Zeus is with the other Olympians trying to deal with Typhon. Like, Hades is really their only hope. And then his dream sort of shifts to the United Nations building, which has currently been preoccupied by the Titan army. And Kronos tells Ethan to release the Draken. And the dream sort of ends with the Draken waking up. I'm really excited for this next scene that's coming up. I'm not going to get to review it in this episode, but I'm looking forward to doing it in the next episode. Rachel tells them that the Draken has to be killed by a child of Ares. Like, that's what she's seen in her visions. It can only be defeated by a child of Ares. Now, instantly, Clarisse, but she's not here yet. And then Percy tells Rachel, you stay in the building, and she's like, you don't have to tell me twice. Like, I'll stay in the building. And the Draken appears, and Percabeth are fighting it together. Percy tells Annabeth, you turn invisible and try and find its weak spot. Like, I'll keep it distracted, I guess you could say. And then the Ares cabin appears with Clarisse, and they charge straight for the Draken. And as she's fighting the Draken spits the poison, like it's got poison in its mouth, and it spits it directly at her face, and she falls to the ground. But then something really strange happens. The real Clarisse appears, and they realise that the person that was fighting and charging with the Ares cabin wasn't actually Clarisse, it was somebody else. And then once the real Clarisse defeats the Draken, they take the helmet and they see a girl who's dying, obviously because she's had the poison spat at her face, and it's Selena. And that is such a what a way to end the chapter. Like, what a way to just be like, what the hell? Like, why would Selena take Clarisse's place? And I guess we'll find out in the next review. I love that I could just end it. Like, I could pick and choose where I end the review. It keeps you guys on your toes. It keeps me on my toes too. I love it. Anyway, let's move on. So my final thoughts regarding what's happened so far. So I love that Annabeth is injured, and then she does it because she was protecting Percy. Percabeth, goals. They're just the top tier relationship. Like, if you want a relationship, you want a relationship like that. It's just amazing. And find it so funny that Rachel already knew that Percy was in danger without him telling her. Again, it's that loose thread that Rick is gonna pull later on, which I love. I love that about his writing. It's great. A lot of Nico's backstory, the reason why Hades is such an arsehole, basically. You get to see a more vulnerable side to him this time round, which I love. This battle that these books have been leading up to, this big army that's coming, like the Titans versus the Olympians. Like, this is what we've been waiting for, and the book is great at just making that. There's lots of battles, it's very real, and that's what I love about it. And those visions of Luke's past that Percy gets to see not only help Percy understand him better, but it helps the audience to understand Luke. Like, he isn't actually a bad guy. Like, there is a good side to him. It's just his vulnerability and his sadness was manipulated. And from that hatred, Kronos has found a way. And it is so sad. Like I said, he has the best character arc in this book. But, like, we'll get there. We'll talk more about that when we get there. Obviously, Rachel causing that tension in the Percabeth relationship. Rachel defenders don't hate me, but she's ruining my ship and I don't like it. Oh no, she's not all bad. I do like her as a character if she didn't like intervene in the Percabeth relationship. No, nothing against her character, just the fact that she annoys me because she goes into the Percabeth relationship. I don't like that. Clarisse obviously defeating the Draken. What a badass. I really like her. Her character's really grown on me. I remember when I read the books for the first time, I wasn't like too keen on her. But now, like, I love her. I think that she's an amazing character. And obviously Selena's death was really sad. The explanation behind her death will be in the next part of the review, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about this part of the book. Again, very, very riveting part of the book. Very fast paced. You've really got to stay with it. And I love that. Like, I love that it keeps you on your toes all the time. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for part 4, which is chapters 17 to 20. I'm only reviewing 3 chapters because, like I said, a lot goes down in the next few chapters. So I've split it up. and then we'll do the last three chapters in part five. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys so much for listening in. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that these episodes are really long. So if anybody manages to make it all the way through, thank you. It's all the only thing I could say right now. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Episodes are available there. They're also available to stream on Spotify if you prefer that. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Again, it's at Aamsuntitledpodcast. I always let you guys know on there when episodes are available to stream. Um, yeah, that's it from me for now. So thank you guys so much. Big hug to anybody that needs it. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Mwah!